Let's move on now. Liberia's President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf is on a state visit to South Africa. She is being hosted by her South African counterpart, Jacob Zuma, and both countries are expected to review and sign agreements to strengthen political and economic ties, to improve trade, skills exchange, and technological support. President Johnson Sirleaf, who is ending her last tenure as president in a few months, inspected a guard of honor at the Union buildings in Pretoria this morning. After their bilateral meeting, both leaders spoke on some of the agreements as well as issues that must be addressed to improve Africa.
We have also agreed to speed up discussions and finalization of other bilateral instruments such as agriculture, tourism, water, and sanitation, among others.
This visit, Mr. President, to us is very monumental. I'm grateful for the opportunity of the meeting we had, the tete-a-tete, to be able to look at the areas of common concern that affect not only our countries individually, but that affect our region and our common drive to see Africa take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations.
Nigeria will join the rest of the world to mark the International Youth Day come Saturday, August the 12th. The theme of this year's celebration is Youth Building Peace. Since the adoption of Security Council Resolution 2250 in 2015, there's been a growing recognition that as agents of change, young people are critical actors in conflict prevention and sustenance of peace. Another Security Council Resolution 2282 of 2016 recognizes that the scale and challenges of sustaining peace requires partnerships between stakeholders, including youth organizations. International Youth Day 2017 is dedicated to celebrating young people's contributions to conflict prevention and transformation, as well as inclusion, social justice, and sustainable peace. Joining us to discuss on the International Youth Day is Nigeria's Director of One Campaign, Sarah Maka. She joins us live from our Abuja studios. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Jacques.
Right, certainly. The theme of this year's celebration is Youth Building Peace. How can the African Union improve the continent's youth development?
Actually, as you probably know, the African Union this year marked 2017 as harnessing the demographic dividend. And what that means is, as you know, Africa has a huge youth bulge. 60% of our population is between the ages of 18 and 24. And what the AU did this year was say, how can other countries, how can all the African countries, the 55 countries, ensure that we're really investing in young people so that they become the custodians of peace and they become building blocks for our future. So that's ongoing right now. Nigeria launched her own roadmap this year, July 6th. The acting president launched that in Abuja. So countries are working their way up to ensuring that they have indicators, plans, commitments, budgets to invest in the young people.
There are many conflicts in Africa, as we know. How can the youth be effective in the prevention and sustenance of peace?
So there are two things that we must do to ensure that young people can be effective. One is to train and equip them. We see the insurgency of extremism, extreme ideology, and young people being attracted to that because there's no alternative. So in many ways, countries have a responsibility to ensure quality education, to ensure employment. As we know, the idle hand, as the proverb says, is the workshop of a bad situation, right? So we have to ensure that young people are employed. We also have to ensure that young people participate. I think the second thing countries need to do is create a space where young people can be vocal and participate in governance. We see elections happening all over the world. We see young people, oftentimes when we have meetings of states and countries, we see the older people in front and the younger people behind. Can we create space for young people so they can make their voices heard? Our founding fathers started their political careers in their late 20s, early 30s. They were the ones who took our independence and provided this opportunity for Nigeria. And yet today we're not seeing as much space for young people to participate in governance, to participate in civic opportunity as we did in the olden days. So I think we need to have more concerted effort into creating a space for young people to participate.
Do you think this is enough? Let's take a look at the unemployment rate, for instance, 14.6% as at the last count. Being unemployed makes, many young people vulnerable. How can we address this to create more jobs, after which we can now fit them into the spaces that you're talking about?
And that statistic, if you drill down, it's actually worse. So between the ages of 18 and 24, it's actually 24% unemployment. So it's worse than we're expecting. And to answer your question directly, what can we do to ensure better employment, higher employment? I think there are two issues. One is unemployment, the other is underemployment. So for unemployment, we need to target some industries that really create jobs for young people. Agriculture is one that could become an interesting opportunity. In the demographic dividend roadmap that we launched as Nigeria in July, one of the taglines was agriculture is the new oil. Young people are the new oil. How can we channel young people into a sector like agriculture? How can we channel them to a sector like manufacturing, ICT? We see technology boom, just really attracting the young people, and the opportunities there are phenomenal. So those are some sectors that we can target as a nation to invest in. And luckily, we, through our economic recovery growth plan, have been investing in agriculture. I think what we need to do is look at our budget for agriculture. Are the young people really participating in agriculture, or do we have a situation where, again, they're excluded from this investment? So I think for unemployment, there's some industries that are important that we need to look at. For underemployment, it's one thing to be employed, and it's another thing to be to utilize your potential to your fullest. I think a lot of young people are in jobs where they're not being utilized, where they're not being paid well, where their full potential is not being used. So as a nation, we do need to look at the plan for bolstering and building these industries that can capture a lot of young people, to give them more employment and better employment.
Well, not just as a country, the continent as well. Our population is expected to boom really by the year 2050. Half of them are youth. How can we take advantage of this as Africa? Quickly.
Africa, we're saying that if we don't invest in education, especially girls' education, if we don't build an industry, especially the industry that employ young people, we end up not with a demographic dividend, but a demographic disaster. And that's a reality. So I think education is important. Girls' education is really important. Employment is important. Including their voices in civic engagement, governance is really important.
Thank you so much for your thoughts and your contributions to Network Africa. Still to come on the program. Our Africa Tech segment focuses on Africa's technology startups. That's in a moment.